This is the second of the recovery sessions that you can do after any ride or on your off day as a way of keeping things moving, keeping some mobility in your hips, opening up your hips a little bit, opening up your shoulders a little bit, and your chest, and creating a little bit of twisting just to create some mobility. All right, so we will start today in a tabletop position. And let's start by keeping your knees underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders. And we'll start with just some simple cats and cows to get our spine starting to get a little bit awakened, as it were. So inhale, your head up. Try to bring your belly button down towards your mat. Stick your butt out a little bit. This is cow. And then on the inhale, arch your back, bring your hips in. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat. Good. We'll come into a child's pose and bring your knees to the outside of the mat and your big toes together. Excuse me. And as you are bringing your butt back towards your heels, start to stretch out your hands as if you were trying to reach forward and bringing your head, your forehead down towards the mat. Excuse me again. The goal here is to rotate your hips slightly forward as if you were trying to arch your back on the inhale. And on the exhale, try to sink back a little bit farther and a little bit deeper in between your shoulders. And then on the inhale, come up a little bit, and then on the exhale, push your left shoulder out a little bit towards the side. Inhale, come back, push out to the right and to the left and to the right. Good. Then leave your hands where they are, and you're going to come forward into a cobra pose. And the cobra pose is meant to open up your chest and start to open up your spine a little bit in your front body. If this is too much to start with, you can come down into a sphinx pose. And a sphinx is your elbows are underneath your shoulders, your hands are outstretched in front of you. And in both the sphinx and the cobra, imagine that your hips are attached to the mat, and your elbows or your hands are pulling your spine longer. So it's not a question of arching more, it's making your spine longer. So inhale. Inhale, just relax the stretch a little bit. And exhale, try to lengthen. Good, so if you're in a cobra, you are here. And each time you exhale, you're trying to let gravity take a little bit more hold of your hips. Good. Curl your toes under. Come into a downward dog. Bring your hips as high as they will go into the air. Come on your tippy toes, and then sink your shoulders back as you try to bring your ears in between your elbows. It's tough to get two straight lines here, your legs and your upper body. But keep working the inhale, release, and the exhale coming down just a little bit farther into that. And then come forward into a plank, drop your knees, come back in to the cobra. It's a little more challenging when your upper body is open, your front body is open to breathe into your belly. So practice that while you are here and open up every time. Curl your toes under, come into a downward dog again. Inhale and exhale, one more cobra. My triceps are starting to get a little tired, so we'll come into a different pose in a moment. And again, you can move side to side in the cobra, working out your hips a little bit more. Push back into a downward dog just for a moment, and then bring your right leg up on the inhale, and on the exhale, bring it forward. And we'll come into a low lunge. So your left knee is now on the mat. Your right knee is up. It's generally going to be easier for what we're going to do to have your hands on your knees, because that keeps your upper body upright. And that gets you more of a of a stretch in your left hip flexors. Whoa. All right. So here's what we're going to do in a low lunge. Going to inhale up and exhale, rotate forward so you feel a bit of a tug on those hip flexors. Inhale up, exhale down. And you might scooch out your foot a little bit to make a little more distance. 3 to 5 breaths on these. And then we'll push back into a half split. Keep your front leg bent. Don't be straightening it out. It puts a little too much pressure on the tendons in the back. Inhale and exhale, come back into a lunge. We're going to repeat that mobility movement. And then push back on the exhale. Inhale up. Exhale. We'll do that one more time. And down. Good. Bring your left hand to the mat and extend your arm up so that you're rotating your shoulders. Inhale, lengthen your spine. You might be pushing into your right foot and your left hand in the mat to help extend the twist. Good. And then come back, put your hands both in the mat, both hands on the mat, put your foot back, come back into a downward dog. Inhale your left leg up, left leg forward on the exhale, and come into a low lunge here. Again. And again, you may find some differences between your right and your left side in terms of what is tight and what is not tight. Go ahead, inhale up, exhale, rotate down, or rotate forward, exhale, come forward again. Generally, we do this until we feel like you've kind of reached the end of where your hip flexor is going to move today. All right, then we'll come back into the half split on the exhale. Inhale up, and you may find yourself with a little bit of more give in the hip flexor. and then back up. Put your right hand down. Now we're going to twist open with our left hand up. Inhale and lengthen your spine. Exhale, rotate your shoulders open. Good. Hands back down to the mat into a downward dog. And inhale your right leg forward, up, and then forward into a half pigeon pose. So bring your knee up towards your right knee up to your right hand, and then start scooching your left hand, your left knee back. All right. So generally, I find that keeping my upper body upright like this gets at the target area is your glutes and your hip here on your right side. Some people you will see come down onto their elbows or completely out front, and that is also effective. But I find it's equally effective here, plus I get a little bit of some movement in my left hip flexors. Totally personal preference. Whatever feels like it works better for you. And so what I'm doing is inhaling, releasing my hip, and exhaling, pushing it out or down, whatever works, so that you feel a bit of a tug there. And release, and come down a little more. Release and come down. Curl your left toe under, come back into a downward dog. Inhale your left foot up and left knee forward, and come into the pigeon pose on your left side. And again, you will feel a difference between sides and what works for you. Part of the work that we're doing with the yoga course is to try to balance that out a little more, to create not more flexibility, but more mobility in your hips and shoulders and spine. Good. Come back into one more downward dog. Just hold this for a second. Try to get your hips up high again. Extend your toes and then sink down a little farther. Inhale, exhale, and walk yourself to the top of the mat into a forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. And we'll come into a mountain on the inhale. And then hands back down to your side on the exhale. From here, we'll step back into a warrior two. So step back with your right foot. Angle it so that your right heel is on the mat, that your right knee is slightly bent, and that your front knee is over your shoelaces. We're just going to spend a moment here. So your arms are rotated lengthwise along the mat. And then from here, this warrior two, we will inhale your front knee straight, exhale, and reach forward with your left hand and come down into a triangle pose. Now these are always a challenge for cyclists and anybody who does running or sports that involve basically forward movement, because our spines get accustomed to moving in one way. So what we're doing here, you can have a block with your left hand. You can have your hand onto your shin. The goal is to open up your shoulders. So your hand is coming up over, you're looking at your top hand. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, come down. Don't push this. And then come back up. Rotate your feet forward. Then rotate your right foot forward towards the end of the mat. So you'll come into warrior two on this side. Same thing. Your knee is soft. Front knee is over your shoelaces. Come into a warrior two. Inhale your legs straight. Exhale, reach forward with your right hand and come down into a triangle on this side. Good, and come back up. Hands on your hips, walk your feet together.